Hello, welcome to TAXtalk April 2018. My name's Anita Monteith and I'm a Technical Manager here at ICAW's Tax Faculty. And with me today we have Caroline Miskin, who looks after our Practitioner Tax Affairs.
Hello.
Caroline. And we've got a special guest, Raj Shah from Shah & Co, who is in practice.
Hello.
And Raj is going to be telling us how Making Tax Digital is going for real a little bit later on. Last week, Caroline and Sarah Ghaffari recorded a webinar to explode some of the myths and misconceptions that have grown up around MTD. And we found the results and feedback from that very interesting. We will be touching on some of the points that people raised where we've had specific questions a little bit later on today. But what we wanted to do was, first of all, just to remind people that is freely available to all ICAW members, and all of our webinars and these tax talks can be watched again at any time at all through the ICAW.com website links. So if you are watching today at lunchtime with colleagues, that's great. But if you want to watch any of these things again later, then you can do that in your own time. Do it in the middle of the night if you suffer from insomnia. So that's not to say that we are boring, because we're not at all, because we really find all this material very, very interesting. And before we get into the MTD stuff, there were just a couple of other things that we wanted to raise that we have put on this week's Newswire, just to ask for some feedback. We're going to talk about the consultations, Caroline. The VAT one.
Yes, the one in particular where we'd like members' input is the VAT consultation, and it's actually a call for evidence on what might happen about the VAT threshold. Obviously, it's frozen at 85,000 until 2020, but the government is seriously considering options to do that, and it's got a call for evidence. This is one where I think we're unlikely to have a firm institute view that on what should happen. But what we want to be able to do is to make sure that the arguments are articulated clearly, both for and against reducing the threshold.
Yes, and this is an Office of Tax Simplification call for evidence.
It's a Treasury call for evidence following the Office of Tax Simplification report. And I think also to point out that there is a SurveyMonkey quick way of responding, and I think it would be very helpful if as many businesses and agents as possible take what would be a quite short period of time to do the SurveyMonkey, even if they haven't got time to wade through all the consultation document.
Because of course there is going to be a link, isn't there? VAT registration.
Indeed,
with MTD.
Yes.
So it is important, we think, sufficiently important to ask members to input on their own account, as well as the response that we will be doing here. Thank you. That was one of the consultations. The other one is the new one on capital gains tax, disposal of property. That again it's following on from previous discussions in relation to non-residents and capital gains tax, but this would extend it, wouldn't it, to all?
Yes, it would. This is very much a technical consultation. The policy is not up for grabs. The government has made the decision that from 2020, it was to be 2019, but from 2020, that there will be an obligation in respect of residential property only to pay capital gains tax within 30 days of the completion date. And that will include any residential property in the UK or overseas, and non-residents that process, which is there at the moment, that will be linked in and aligned with the new process for UK residents. So this is one where we really do need people to think about what the pitfalls might be and what the difficulties might be with the policy, and what ways there might be to work around those, because it does seem that the policy is going to be implemented.
Well, all of this is leading us up to digitalisation of tax overall. Now, Frank and I came to visit you a few months ago now, Raj, in your practice, and we didn't see books. What we actually saw was a digitalised practice. So, first of all, do you want to just talk a little bit about what your firm is? And
yes, we're a small practice, 3-partner practice, and our focus has been very much to digitise as much as possible. From a very early stage, a good sort of 10 years ago, we've been a paperless office, trying to achieve the amount of files and paperwork around and to make it just streamline that. Having said that, with MTD being mentioned, we've seen that opportunity to say basically we should be really promoting our clients to be looking at how they should be recording data.
Right. So what software do you use as a practice at the moment?
As a practice, we use Iris across the board for all the different elements. Now that is as a practice. Our clients use various different types of software.
Right.
We recommend, for larger practice clients, we tend to use Sage. For a lot of the smaller clients, and particularly the startups, we tend to use Xero.
Right, so you've got 3. So your Iris is your practice software.
As the practice software.
And what your clients use is going to be Sage at the larger
Sage,
end.
Indeed, at the larger end, and Xero. And again, within Xero, there are a number of options available, particularly for accountants rather than the public at large.
Right.
Xero, provided you are a certified partner, they do make available various modules that are much lower cost than the full-blown version that's advertised to the public, and that's very, very useful for us, even when the clients don't do the bookkeeping, because that forms the basis of keeping records on a digital basis.
So when if we just consider taking on a new client, when the client arrives, if they use something else at the moment, how do you deal with
right,
that?
so when a new client comes and joins us, we would, the whole idea about that is to, understand their practices, understand how they, work. We would not be looking to change
right, so
them
if they're using
immediately.
QuickBooks already,
Indeed,
then you'd say
absolutely.
carry on.
We'd carry on, and over a period of time, we would review how they're using that software and whether there is any merit in moving. It may be, for some reason, that software, it works well with the client and we shouldn't disturb it. But occasionally we feel that as they're growing, basically, they need to look at some, different types of, software where there are better capabilities in different aspects. So we generally keep new clients, we monitor them very much early on.
Right,
to say what they need. And again, we look at the size of the client and assess it on that basis.
So I know you're a 3-partner practice.
Yes.
Do you have anybody within your staff that is a software specialist? Or
no, we don't. We make sure all our staff have training and they certify themselves on all the different types. So we ensure each and every member of staff is exposed to different types of software.
Right.
Particularly as, it's a skill we feel that they need to be aware. And as accountants, at the end of the day, a lot of the software, whilst it's different versions, different types and makes, but they achieve the same thing at the end of it. There's the same goal, and it's not too hard to learn navigating between software.
So when Making Tax Digital proposals were first being discussed, I know you sit on our Practitioner Tax Committee, which is how you know Caroline.
Yes.
What did you do with your staff?
With our staff, we've had discussions very early on. We've had, we amongst ourselves have regular discussions to say what we should be doing. And we have very much an open practice in the sense that staff have a huge amount of input in terms of day-to-day side of things. And we've been discussing what we should be doing with our clients, and particularly those who operate on Excel spreadsheets and so forth. Whilst this works, we don't think that's a long-term solution.
Oh, right.
Genuinely, because we think very early on, if you think about it from an accountant's perspective, Excel works fine, but then clearly you then need to transfer the data into your own practice software to produce final accounts, so forth. And rather,
can we just break there a second?
Yes.
Caroline, do you want to just remind everybody about how you can use an Excel spreadsheet at the moment?
Well, yes, of course. When HMRC's initial position was that spreadsheets were not going to be allowed, so it was a sort of a concession, if you like, that they have made. But I think what maybe isn't understood by everybody is that the spreadsheet on its own does not mean you're compliant with MTD. It has to be combined with either a piece of bridging software that will take the data from the spreadsheet and put it into some sort of a product that can use HMRC's API platform to submit the data to HMRC, or the spreadsheet itself has to be API enabled. Either of those options are likely to come at a cost. Some members have asked when are HMRC going to give us the APIs to be able to fix my spreadsheet? Well, that's not the way it's going to work. Anybody who wants access to the API platform needs to register as a developer with HMRC and have a lot of technical ability to be able to do that. So, it is anybody using a spreadsheet is going to have to combine it with some other product that's likely to come at a cost. And the fundamental issues of the error rate within spreadsheets, I agree, that seems to remain.
And also another point that came up from the feedback on the webinar last week was that people hadn't appreciated that the digital record keeping actually starts from your, being old-fashioned, your book of prime entry.
Yes.
So you don't need to digitally copy all the receipts. It's only going to be from, the Excel spreadsheet if that's where you're starting, or one of the bookkeeping packages if that's what you're using.
It is very much the case. And going back to Caroline's point about spreadsheets and everything else, it is very difficult in terms of all the different elements to take it from Excel to accounts, production, or whatever packages you use. And for us, efficiency is key from a practice perspective. And we think that's the reason why practices should be really looking at software from very early stages and thinking along those lines now rather than much later on and find that they need to move their clients onto different types of software. Whereas if you bring clients onto different types of software very early on, even if they're much smaller businesses, it's easy to graduate them to other packages and so forth.
But we understand that if you are perhaps a single person practice and you are dealing with the sorts of clients who have only ever written things down on bits of paper before or used Word or something, for them maybe the starting point might still be Excel.
Yes, I would say it's worth considering Excel if the clients are going to record some
anything else.
Well, this is it, and I think again what we say is with businesses, anyone starting in a business, you should really be training and teaching them, that they need to move on, and they, from a business perspective, getting information, how their business is doing. And it's important that they're on the right platform. Excel doesn't give that information.
What about landlords? I mean, a lot of people, that is their business. I know, we're going to be talking about VAT in a minute, and it's not relevant for.
Yes.
But what about landlords?
Again, it's very again. I mean, we took the same view because again, HMRC said, MTD will apply to landlords, and we took the same view where we had clients who had a reasonable number of properties, anything more than 3 or 4, I would say to you, where it gets complex in terms of numbers, and we have introduced them to software. Again, very early on, we get them to keep a separate bank account for the rental income and expenses, and to make it more efficient, we've got them to set up bank feeds and everything else. So the recording part of it becomes far simpler and accurate. So by the time when it comes to us, we're not wasting time looking at has, for information for completeness and so forth.
Actually, we were going to talk about bank feeds as
Yes.
one of our topics. Let's
Yes.
just sort of segue into that now.
Yes.
We're seeing more and more. I think it was RBS, wasn't it, that's done a link up.
They've got a link up with Free Agent.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's the latest software
Right.
to be linked to a bank account. There are other links as well. Do we see that as the future?
I would say very much bank feeds, because it saves so much time and accuracy. In fact, whilst there are link-ups between banks and various software houses, each and every software that claims to be ready for MTD provides bank feeds and ability to set up bank feeds. So whoever you bank with is not an issue.
Yes.
But setting it up and getting that link sorted out, it's hugely beneficial in terms of just the basic record keeping.
Yes, isn't it funny? It's interesting that people are less worried about paying for their bank account than they are about paying for accounting software or tax software.
Yes.
I mean, maybe that is going to change things. I'm just looking at the notes I've made. I saw there's a new one, Counting Up, new Challenger Bank. That's integrating tax and accounting software.
Yes, and
Yes.
there's another one as well. Yeah, where it won't be such a bank feed. They're actually
Yes.
bringing it sufficiently close so that the operation of the bank account and the accounting is that
It's almost
join
integrated,
is
yes.
it can't be seen by the user. Obviously only for the
Yes.
for the most straightforward of businesses. But
Yes.
But there are millions of
There are
those.
millions of
Indeed,
those.
yes. And I think this is where, again, I think as accountants, in practice, we should really be encouraging our clients to move on to these sort of platforms, simply because it will make their practice efficient, in terms of dealing with the end of year returns and accounts.
Yes, I saw there was another link up. It was TSB and Xero who were linking
Yes.
up through Enterprise Nation, and ICAW is also linked into that
Yes,
through
indeed.
BAS. Are you
Yes.
part of the business?
We are part of the BAS service.
That's
and
Business Advice Service.
Yes, indeed. And we do work with Enterprise Nation as well. We think it's a brilliant idea, and we genuinely need to promote our clients, looking at all the different aspects. If they're an existing banking relationship, that doesn't need to be disturbed. They just need to then choose a software, platform that they feel they would like and suits their needs, because obviously some platforms are much better at certain elements, whether it be job costing or products and things like that.
Yes, and if for people who don't know anything about BAS, if you go to icaw.com/BAS, then you'll find more about the service. Can we just move back a step? So we've talked about how you've talked to your staff and how you've come to group decisions there about which software to use. What about informing clients? We have some draft letters that Caroline has written, but maybe just tell us what you've done, and then Caroline.
So we again, but at an early stage of MTD consultation, we felt, when the dates were much earlier, we felt it would be advisable to contact clients very early on. So effectively at that stage, those clients who weren't on different types of software, we made sure we sent them an email to say this is
so email them. You didn't write to them, you emailed them.
We
right?
emailed them practice-wide, and we effectively picked up that to say, with MTD in the horizon, we certainly felt that they should be now actively looking at digitizing their records, and we would support them, and we asked them to contact us, and our staff as well began proactively sort of discussing this with the clients in their portfolio, particularly the ones that were larger, and just work their way down to say, we need to do this, different options, costs involved, and so forth. And again, for this part, literally we do say to the clients that there is a cost involved in it. and depending on the package, some of them may be a nominal sum, but for some it's larger. But we also promote the benefit of it. The key thing is for the basic ones, fair enough, but the larger ones, we show them the online, the cloud-based access to the data. They can see at a glance where the business is. So
you're telling them more than just about making tax digital.
Absolutely. So we're using that to say, as a business, they shouldn't be just looking at something that they're doing for compliance purposes. We're saying, as a business, they need to be aware of how their business goes, what money they have there in the bank, how much they need to reserve for the tax and things like that, and how much profit.
Yes, and then you can do your role as a business advisor rather than just time to do your tax return, pull it all in.
Yeah, so very much it's promoting that on the basis of in their interest, basically.
Caroline, the letters.
Yes, and the letters that we have put on our hub, which is icw.com/mtd, under the agents section. Yes, we have got 3 or 4 different letters that might be suitable for different groups of clients. As you say, they are largely an awareness raising tool. We deliberately kept them fairly short and readable. And in particular, what we were encouraging the clients to make sure that if they are considering using software, that they do talk to their agent first, because that's what a number of members said. Yes. We don't want the client going off making a software decision without discussing with us first.
Right.
This is what I would say. Actually, that's why it's important. As accountants, we approach our clients first.
Yeah.
Because again, clients often sign up to different types which may not be suitable, and again, another key aspect is structuring that software, because a lot of this, the software is fine, but it needs to be structured so that it's useful for you and the client.
So if you're buying Sage, for instance, then you need to know which of Sage's products.
Indeed, and within that, for example, they provide different charts of account.
Yes.
And it's important to understand that chart of account, which will be most appropriate for your business.
Yes.
And that's why it's important that accountants
you said some very interesting things to me before we began about negotiating the price, because we were saying how expensive it can be.
Software can be very expensive, and the way we recommend is that whilst all the software companies have their pricing structure, everything else which is publicized and what's available to the public, they'll often have their packages that they offer accountants, special deals, and also, provided if you're willing to take on a certain number of licenses, you'll have access to different types of modules. So, for example, we use Xero, and they have apart from what's been publicized on the website, which clients can sign up to, they offer you, as accountants who've taken up a certain number of licenses, they offer you other much more basic versions at a very low cost, which can be used internally within the practice from day one, so that you're not using Excel spreadsheets.
So you don't have to take the price
indeed,
that's on the website.
No, indeed, and it is worth sitting down with them, and by all means, meet different providers, look at the software they're offering, and what would suit your practice.
Yes, because I know some people get sort of sucked into ladder structures.
Yes.
Which can be difficult if you then take on the 11th client if you've only bought 10.
Yes, and again, I think this is where it's important when you're having your initial discussions, to just evaluate your practice, what your clients' needs are, and signing up to certain numbers as is appropriate. So don't sign up to excessive numbers which you don't need.
Yes, be careful. Actually,
yes, indeed.
Caroline and I are going along to Accountex, as I'm sure many people watching will be going.
Yes.
Accountex is, do you want to just say, Caroline?
Yeah, Accountex, which is one of the major exhibition for accountants, and certainly when we were there last year, MTD was a major feature of it. The time HMRC were in Purda, so they couldn't be involved, but hopefully we won't have an election this year and they can be involved.
They're there in vast numbers speaking, I think.
They will be there in numbers this year. But yes, we are going to have a presence on the ICAW stand, so anybody that wants to come along to speak to us about MTD, please, or anything else, please do.
Yes, exactly. We will be there. We we'll hopefully be attracting some new tax faculty members as well in the process.
Yes.
But we would really like to see you if you can come. I'm sorry if you're not able to get to London, but I think Accountex is much bigger than just the three of us, so that is outside of our control. But we do hope that you'll be able to make it. Raj, are there any other things you'd like to talk about? The tax pilot, you haven't gone into that yet, have you?
We haven't gone into that, but we've the
MTD pilot.
Yes, indeed, the MTD. We are in the process of signing up.
You've done your agent services account.
We have an agent services account, which we're using for ATED and for signing up effectively to.
So people who've done the trust registration service and they've got their new agent account, that is the same account.
Correct.
It is.
Yeah. So
but ATED is separate. ATED has a separate. So it's at the moment the agent service account. Anybody can add. There's now a link online. If you go to our news item this week, that link is available there to go. And we would recommend that people do set up their agent services account because there have been some issues with it. Even if you don't intend to join the pilot or do anything else. But yes, if you've been in the trust registration service, you've got one. The authorisation process for ATED, that one is separate, but do remember that ATED returns are due by the end of this month.
Yes, and that's all online, isn't it?
And that all has to be online, and the old structured email return that used to be available isn't available anymore. This year we have to use the online process.
Right. So let's return them. We've got
so
the
going
agent
back,
services
yes, indeed.
account.
So we signed up for the agent services account.
All your existing accounts still function?
You keep them exactly as they are, and the new agent services account, in fact, you'll almost see nothing there, and it remains that way until HMRC will move different things. So you carry on using your existing accounts as such. But going back, so we've signed up. We have an agent services account, and we are going to sign up for both MTD for income tax, and we are going to do for VAT purposes as well for the pilot. Our view on this aspect is to say we really need to understand all this, how it's going to work and so forth. So we are well set up as a practice. We understand the implications of each of these areas, so that when it becomes compulsory, our clients are ready.
So who have you put in then? Friends and family?
Oh, it's unfortunately with all these things, it is friends and family.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get convince
you can't
clients.
Try out your clients.
No, not indeed. Yes, so it's very much friends and family.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be a sensible approach in the first instance. The VAT pilot is going to start imminently, isn't it?
The VAT pilot actually started last week, but it is of course by invitation.
I was on holiday last week.
It was, but it's by invitation only. So you can put your name on the list either by contacting your software provider, and in fact we have put forward about 50 names of members who've come to us. But the numbers going in the period up until probably the end of July, August sometime, will be very small and only the most straightforward businesses. Of course, the income tax pilot also went into public beta in the middle of March, but again that was at the moment there's only two providers on the list that HMRC has published of software.
But there
providers.
are going to be a lot more.
There will be a lot more.
People don't need to jump.
No, they don't need to jump.
Panic.
There will be a lot more. We won't see a list of VAT software suppliers until it moves into public beta in July, August, that sort of time.
And we are advising people to contact their own software supplier, aren't we?
That's the starting point. Yeah.
What are you doing? When are you doing it?
Yeah.
I'll be ready. Join in then, but don't panic. Yes. Okay, that is great. Well, just a few more things. We've mentioned the Accountex exhibition in May. I think it's about the 23rd, 24th. And we'll be there both days, I think.
We will.
Yes, excellent. A few more things happening. We've got a healthcare conference coming up on the 2nd of May. I'm talking about MTD at that one. We've got also Tax Club on the 22nd of May. And that's going to be on the Finance Act 2018 and Spring Statement. Younger Members Tax Club is again, that is a London-based event, and it's available to anybody who works in tax. Doesn't have to be ICAW members, but more about that, more information is on the website. We've got a number of webinars coming up. In fact, we've got so many webinars, I can't talk about them all, but perhaps just the very next one is the 3rd of May, which is Offshore Compliance, Risks and Opportunities. There's a PCRT, Professional Conduct in Relation to Tax one, that I know Frank has in hand, and that one is really a refresher. There's nothing new and radical on PCRT, but it's going to be a quick half-hour refresher session. Mindful of the fact that everybody can't get to London, please do look at our webinar schedule, because these are available to all tax faculty members. They're all available and continue to be on demand, so you needn't miss out wherever you are based in the country. You don't have to be an ICAW member to join the tax faculty. We are a very open community, and we'd love to have you join us, and we'd love to see as many of you as we can, please, at Accountex, when we'll be there to greet you. Meanwhile, thank you very much indeed, Caroline and Shah and Raj from Shah and Co. For joining us today. More next time. Thank you for watching.